UFC Fight Night Vegas 22, Brunson versus Holland just took place, and other than the main event, the rest of the card was actually really good, so I'm going to go through the entire card, giving my overall event recap, starting with the early prelims, ending with the main event, giving my reaction and breakdown to every single fight on the card, starting with the early prelim opener of Bruno Silva versus JP Buys. What can we say about JP Buys? Just got a little bit exposed in the striking department here. Bruno Silva was all over him straight away. JP Buys opened up very well, looked quite good in the early minutes of the bout, went for a takedown, got taken down, had a submission attempt, then got back up. Bruno Silva eventually just started piecing him up on the feet and showing that JP Buys, or however you pronounce his surname, is just not really there striking-wise with these flyweights, and Bruno Silva really did expose him on the feet. I mean, JP Buys had some really, really big holes in his striking game, was not bringing his hands back to his face whatsoever, and was just so slow as the fight went on. He survived a tough first round, so he's definitely a tough guy. I respect JP Buys for surviving that first round onslaught from Bruno Silva. Second round came around. Bruno Silva was just too much for him on the feet and eventually got a TKO finish. I said that Bruno Silva would get the job done as an underdog here against JP Buys. I thought that JP Buys had a little bit of a cardio issue, but I thought Bruno Silva was going to go out there and win a unanimous decision 29-28 and even lose the first round. I did not expect him to be that dominant on the feet against JP Buys, really exposing some massive holes in JP Buys' game. Bruno Silva gets the job done by TKO in the second round, a brutal finish. Great job, Bruno Silva. Moving on up the card, Montel Jackson versus Jesse Strader. I mean, this one just went as expected. Jesse Strader's a 5-1 guy, shouldn't even be in the UFC whatsoever. So, Montel Jackson KO'd him in the first round, caught him with a good shot. I mean, Jesse Strader showed that he was in there and he was game. He was actually outlanding Montel Jackson at the start of the fight, landing some great leg kicks early. It seemed like once he didn't get the reaction that he wanted from his first few shots, I thought maybe he expected Montel Jackson to just quit after a couple of good shots landed. Some great calf kicks were landed from Jesse Strader, and Montel Jackson's got really skinny legs, so maybe Jesse Strader thought he would really start to see some signs of an effect from those calf kicks on Montel Jackson, and that would give him a little bit of a confidence boost. But Montel Jackson stayed patient, found the right hand, put down Jesse Strader at one point. Didn't really go for a good finish straight away, but then eventually Jesse Strader gets back up, and Montel Jackson puts him down again with a good combination, and finishes the job by TKO to ground and pound in the first round. Montel Jackson gets the job done, and I made good money by betting Montel Jackson by TKO, and I made good money on Bruno Silva as an underdog, so I'm very happy about these predictions. Montel Jackson gets it done by TKO. Really easy fight to predict. Jesse Strader shouldn't be in the UFC. I have no idea why he is. Moving on up the card, Trevin Giles versus Roman Dolidze. Now, I have a problem with this, okay? And I don't see anyone else having a problem with this, and it annoys me. So let me know if you also have a problem with this, as I do. I thought Roman Dolidze really, really clearly won rounds 1 and 3. Now, it was a very close fight. It was an extremely close fight. But I very obviously saw him win rounds 1 and 3. I picked him to win 29-28. He got it done 29-28 in my opinion. I'm taking it as a win, man. I know people are going to say Trevin Giles, it wasn't a gifted decision. But I swear, it's only because of the face of Roman Dolidze. The second round is clearly Trevin Giles, but I don't even know about that. I mean, Roman Dolidze had some close submission attempts in that bout, and I feel like in men's MMA, they just aren't counting submission attempts, where in women's MMA, they'll give someone a round because of a submission attempt. Like, it just makes no sense to me, the inconsistency in the judging here. I don't understand it at all. In all honesty, I really don't. I thought Roman Dolidze won the third round. And people are going to say, lol, you like huggers. He was literally just hugging Trevin Giles in the third round. No, he wasn't just hugging Trevin Giles in the third round. He outlanded Trevin Giles on significant strikes. Giles landed a big shot in that round, don't get me wrong. But he didn't drop Dolidze, okay, at all. He hit him with a big shot. Dolidze took it, clinched up with Trevin Giles. That was the end of that. He got hit with a big shot. He clinched up. He stopped Trevin Giles from landing it again. Roman Dolidze landed more significant strikes in round 3. He got a takedown reverse position in round 3, got mount at one point in round 3, landed a huge ground and pound shot in the last minute of round 3 as well. That was a big ground and pound shot that equally could have finished Trevin Giles the same way that Giles' shot could have finished Dolidze. He outlanded him, he out-hustled him in the scrambles, he ended on top, he got positional advantage, he went for a knee bar, he had a submission attempt in the round on top of everything else I've just told you in case that isn't enough. Roman Dolidze won that fight in my opinion, but Trevin Giles is black and Trevin Giles is not going to get hate for it. Moving on up the card, Leonardo Santos versus Grant Dawson. I picked Grant Dawson to finish in the third round. I thought he was going to finish it by arm triangle in the third round via submission. I was so close to it happening. Great fight, though, Leonardo Santos versus Grant Dawson. I mean, Leonardo Santos deserves all the credit in the world. He looked great in that first round, landed some good shots, defended takedowns really, really well against Grant Dawson. In the second round, I was worried for a second because they showed some strikes and they showed a strike count that had Santos up like 37-26 in the second round against Grant Dawson. And I immediately said, as soon as they showed the strike numbers on screen, they've made up like half of the punches of Thiago Santos. They said he landed 36 strikes in the round. I'll go to the stats right now in the recounts. He actually landed in round 2, other than 36 or 7 they showed on TV, he actually landed 16. That is under half. You can't be off counting strikes by doubling what you actually saw land. That really annoys me because that's not negligence. That's not human error. That's like, I want Leonardo Santos to win, so these are the strikes I'm going to show on screen. I don't understand where they got those numbers from. I thought Grant Dawson won the second round so clearly. The first round, Grant Dawson also outlanded Leonardo Santos. I was saying in the first round, maybe you can give it to Grant Dawson. But Leonardo Santos earned a nice little sweep in that round, a nice little hip toss. Ended up on top for a second. Didn't really do too much with it, but got the top position, a great big takedown. So I didn't mind the first round going to Leonardo Santos. Round 2's clear Grant Dawson. Round 3, he starts to wear on Leonardo Santos, finally gets him to the ground, starts working in some positions, gets the half guard as I said he would, and I thought he was going to get the arm triangle, but good job Leonardo Santos surviving that position and showing that he's still got gas in the tank in his old age. But eventually Grant Dawson just puts the pressure on at the end of round 3. Gets himself a TKO win with 1 second to spare. Dominic Reyes, Chris Weidman style, just hammer fists while there's a bit of a leg entanglement going on, and just puts out Leonardo Santos with a second to go. Great win from Grant Dawson, and that was like the first bonus-worthy performance I thought of the night so far, but I don't know if it's going to get a bonus because we'll get to the main card in a second. There were some great KOs, but moving on, Marion Reneau versus Macy Chiasson. Close fight again. I thought that maybe the third round was really close. I thought Macy Chiasson did enough in the third round to get it done for sure. Ended on top as well, I believe. Had some good takedown positions. Marion Reneau just didn't really seem like she was in there too good after the first round. Had some good moments where she would land a clean leg kick on Macy Chiasson, but eventually Macy Chiasson would land great shots in the second round, really start to piece apart Marion Reneau, but then almost finished her, so she had to clinch up immediately. But yeah, round 3, clearly Macy Chiasson, maybe even round 1, but I gave round 1 to Marion Reneau. I thought she landed the cleaner shot. She landed some great leg kicks in that round. Round 2's obviously Macy Chiasson battering Marion Reneau around the cage a little bit. Round 3, 15-8 on significant strikes. Macy Chiasson gets to control at the end as well with a good takedown. Macy Chiasson won that fight pretty clearly, and it was a good performance in all honesty. It wasn't as boring as people would make it out to be. It was actually a decent win. I thought a decent performance, a decent fight. It was better than Dolidze versus Giles maybe. It was a decent scrap. There were some good body kicks, some good hooks. Macy Chiasson can really throw with some heat, and she's got some power in that women's bantamweight division. 8-1 prospects, gets the job done. I think Marion Reneau's probably going to get cut from the UFC now. 9-7. I think she's on a 4-fight win streak right now as well. I think that might be enough is enough. Macy Chiasson gets the job done by unanimous decision. Great performance. Moving on up the card to the main card. Tuivasa versus Harry Hunsucker. I called this fight to a T. Okay? Just going to point it out, because this needs to be mentioned. I literally said Tuivasa is going to go out there, calf kick Hunsucker a couple of times, and then KO him with a right hand over the top. I literally called it to a T. I even said he was going to drop him with the right hand and finish with ground and pound afterwards. I didn't say walk off KO or anything. Like, Tuivasa genuinely said did exactly what he was supposed to do. I thought that's what he was supposed to do. Go out there, chop at the calves of a guy who has not been training in a training camp right now for this fight, which means they aren't really going to have their calves conditioned. They haven't been kicked in the legs over and over and over again during a camp. He might be in shape. He might be in decent shape, don't get me wrong, and he can run a little bit and stuff like that, but you can't really condition yourself in such short notice. And Tuivasa went out there, knew this, chopped at the legs early, really nullified the leg of Harry Hunsucker in the first round. I mean, after one of the calf kicks, you saw it on Hunsucker. His leg was completely done. Then Tuivasa cracked him with a right hand. The second right hand didn't even land, and it looked like Hunsucker maybe took a dive, but it was his leg, I feel like, because if you watch his leg when that happens, his leg just can't hold the weight anymore, and he just sort of flops over after the first right hand rocks him. And Tuivasa gets a TKO in the first round. Great performance by Tuivasa, and good job Harry Hunsucker for showing up on short notice, because this card would be really terrible if this fight wasn't on there. So Tuivasa gets it done. First round KO. Thank you, Tuivasa. Great performance with the calf kicks as well. He's a dangerous guy, man. 12-3 now in the heavyweight division. Still a young heavyweight as well. I don't know what they're going to do with him next, but I wouldn't even mind seeing him rebooked against Dontel Mays or even Tom Aspinall versus Tuivasa. Those fights make sense to me. Moving on up the card, Adrian Yanez versus Gustavo Lopez. I went with Adrian Yanez by first round KO. Did not see him having a performance that he had against Gustavo Lopez. I thought as this fight went on, maybe Gustavo Lopez would have a little bit more of a chance. But Adrian Yanez is the real deal, man. He has found a different kind of step in his game here. And he is so patient in that cage. You'd think he's had like 100 fights. Crazy. Mini Masvidal, 100%. He fights exactly the same way. He does exactly the same things. Crazy Adrian Yanez. The amount of skill this man has at such a young age. He's got such a bright future in this sport. I believe he's 27 years old. Nowhere near being 28 for a good long time. So I think instead of turning him right around in Houston, I think give him some time, let him go away, develop his skills even more. We've got a real chance at a real superstar here in the bantamweight division. And I think we could maybe look at a Sean O'Malley bout down the line. That would be a great sale, I'm sure. But Adrian Yanez has proven himself now with that big win as a real legit contender in this bantamweight division. He scored Gustavo Lopez, landing great counter shots. The first round, he took a little while to get going. He didn't rush his finish because occasionally Gustavo Lopez would just swing back like a maniac because he's a tough guy, don't get me wrong. Landed some good shots as maybe Adrian Yanez was looking to close the distance and get the finish. But Adrian Yanez stayed patient, eventually got the walk-off one-punch KO in the third round. Beautiful finish from Adrian Yanez. Won the first round on strikes, won the second round on strikes, got a knockdown in the second round as well that was beautiful. Didn't go for the finish though, took his time, very patient, picked his shots, landed some great head kicks in the bout as well, but then combination finish for Adrian Yanez and then the one punch KO afterwards. Great performance by Adrian Yanez. You couldn't have scripted it even any better. He gets experience. We get to see him in the cage for a little bit longer. If he gets a one-punch KO in the first round, we really don't learn too much about him. So it's good that we saw some real tape on him. Got a feeling of how he actually is over a distance because we haven't seen him do that for a while against any good competition. But now he just beat Gustavo Lopez. Arguably better than Dvalishvili did. I know it's a different way of fighting, but still, Adrian Yanez had a really good performance. And we need to watch out for this man in the division. His head movement, man. For a guy that young and with that little fights, his head movement's like McGregor-esque. Like he'll slip just out of the way or brush his nose, but he'll come back with a 1-2 afterwards. Like he's really good for his age. Really good for his lack of experience. I don't want him to turn around and fight on that Houston card. Give him some time. Let's get him back on the McGregor card in July. That's what I want to do. Give him 4 months. Go away, heal up. He just had a fight camp. He landed some good shots. I'm sure his shins and knuckles are going to be a little bit bruised. He didn't really take any big shots off of Lopez. But take his time. Turn him back around in July on the McGregor card prelims. Let's build ourselves a superstar. Moving on up the card. Cheyanne versus Montserrat Ruiz. Now, I've never been more frustrated in my life watching an MMA bout. But then I watched the main event afterwards, so it kind of put this one into perspective a little bit. But Cheyanne versus Montserrat Ruiz, right. I learned how to get out of a headlock, no joke, when I was 10 years of age, okay? I was put in a headlock a lot because that's what used to happen back in the days. People used to put people in headlocks, take the ball away, move it around, all the people from the older years, put you in a headlock. I genuinely learned how to get out of that kind of bulldog choke when I was 10 years of age in primary school. That's not an over-exaggeration. I knew exactly what to do. Get my dick to the ground, get my belly down, get to my knees, and I'll get up out of this situation. I learned that when I was 10. You can go back and watch my fight companion right now. I was screaming for Cheyanne to put her vag down to the canvas, get her belly down flat, be that way up, and get to her knees. Eventually she does it, and as soon as she does it correctly and gets to her knees solidly, she gets right out of the situation. I I've had like a couple of jiu-jitsu lessons. All I do is watch the fights from the sideline. The fact that her coach was screaming out numbers and how much time was left in the round as Montserrat Ruiz has her in this little headlock position, and not telling her to get belly down and get up to her knees and stand back up from that position. She was literally trying to get the leg back as if she was going to go for a twister or something. She was keeping herself in the headlock position, and we're going to talk about the ending in a second here, don't you worry. I've never seen such stupidity in my... She's been training for ages. I know how to get out of that. And eventually she did what I was asking her to do the entire fight long. And immediately as she did it, she got out of the position, ended up in full mount and started landing some good shots. End of the fight. But the coach, man, let me talk about the coach. Fire him. Should not be allowed to coach MMA fighters. If you're screaming numbers and how much time is left when you can see that that's happening in the cage and not telling your fighter how to get out of that position, you don't know what you're watching, fire him. And maybe cut the Baez family as well, because they didn't really look too good technically, I'll be honest with you. But Cheyanne Baez, at the end of the fight, Montserrat Ruiz spits in her face, so she punches Montserrat Ruiz after the bell a little bit. Just going to say this. Paul Daly missed a punch on Josh Koscheck. Didn't even land it that clean. And he got cut from the UFC for life. I guarantee you Cheyanne Baez doesn't get cut or suspended or any kind of disciplinary action for this. She punched someone after the bell, and even Montserrat Ruiz spat on Cheyanne Baez after the bell. If a male MMA fighter did that, they would be cut from the UFC for life, and Dana White would be on Instagram right now, bright red, about to explode from the head, screaming about how stupid they are and how dumb of people they are and how he's cut them from the UFC. But they're women, so they're allowed to be stupid and break laws, basically, as exactly as it is in real life. But all good. Embarrassing. I learned how to get out of a headlock when my brother put me in one at 10 years of age, when people in older years put me in one. Flatten out on your belly, get to your knees. They can't hold on to the headlock forever. You're going to slide out the back. I learned that when I was 10. She spent a decade in the game of MMA. She hasn't learned how to get out of that move. I was screaming at her the entire time how to get out. As soon as she did it, she got out of it. That's all I'll say. But I picked Cheyanne Baez. Montserrat Ruiz has got a nice arse though, so good job. Moving on up the card. Kenan Song versus Max Griffin. Brutal KO. I only saw it with the replay because I crashed at one point. But Max Griffin got a brutal KO over Kenan Song. Landed great shots early in the bout. Landed a lot of them early as well. Some clean shots on the chin of Kenan Song. Wobbled him a couple of times. Not wobbled him to where Kenan Song was sort of Kevin Leeing all over the place as he was against Edson Barboza. But wobbled him in a fact where you could see the legs go a little bit. Like the legs would just flutter a little bit beneath him. And it wasn't like he'd get hit by a punch and it was very clear that legs weren't stiff to the ground. They would wobble around, the ankle would look to roll a little bit, start to tremble at the legs, got caught with some really big shots early, and eventually Max Griffin puts it on him, starts adding in the volume, and the reach advantage was just a little bit too much for Kenan Song, gets caught with a 1-2 against the cage, and puts out cold. A little bit of an illegal blow afterwards from Max Griffin, but put out cold in the at the end of the first round by Max Griffin. Great KO win, halfway through the first round actually, and I think, who did he call out? Jeff Neal? I like the matchup. If he called him out, that builds some kind of hyper narrative. He was in the co-main event of a fight night that a lot of people were tuning into for Kevin Holland. We'll get to that cunt in a second. But Max Griffin took advantage of the spotlight. I think he actually could get the Jeff Neal bout in Houston. We'll see what happens. Good stuff for Max Griffin. Great performance against Kenan Song. Gets the job done. I picked him to win as well, but not like that. First round KO for Max Griffin. Great performance. Moving on up the card. Derek Brunson versus Kevin Holland. Now, I've given my full reaction to this on my channel if you want to go and check out a long 14-minute reaction to this as I digest it afterwards, and it's got a really good like to dislike ratio, so apparently people agree with me. That was the most embarrassing and garbage high profile fight I've ever seen in recent MMA history. It looked like Kevin Holland had rigged it to have Brunson win. It looked like he wasn't trying. He would be talking to someone whilst on bottom being punched and not trying to advance his position or like defend himself in any way. Like he was doing some good rolls on the ground where he wasn't taking big elbows clean, but he seemed like he was okay to lose out there, and I think he's got something wrong with him. It was something that I liked before. I liked his attitude before. I liked the way he talked in the cage before, but when you're doing it when you're losing, it's different stuff, man. You've got to start putting your pedal to the metal here and going after Brunson. Brunson got a win. And people are going to say on Twitter, like Tatiana Suarez, I bet you has probably tweeted out something like, when will they stop doubting at Derek Brunson MMA? When will they stop doubting this man? He didn't even do good, man. He won a fight as an underdog against an up-and-comer at middleweight in Kevin Holland. He looked fucking embarrassing. I'll take him on next week. I won't take him on next week. I'll lose to him, of course, because I'm not an MMA fighter. But I genuinely don't mind my chances, man. Oh, this is where it's dangerous, because I don't want brain damage and I've never broken my nose in my life. I've never been, like, dropped or, like, KO'd in my life. And my brain is one of the most important things to me. Fights like that make me want to start an MMA career. And this is the fucking delusion that I get into, man. Because fights like that genuinely make me think I could become a middleweight champion. Not even a joke. Derek Brunson looked like he was fighting underwater after the first round. After the first round, Brunson got up, looked completely gassed out. And I was thinking to myself at one point, man, Kevin Holland is really tricking Derek Brunson here by playing possum on the ground. But no, that was just his takedown defense. And I'll say it before and I'll say it again. All of that smoke till we spray at your friends. I'm sorry, that was a 1-4 lyric. But, what was I going to say? I'll say it before and I'll say it again. The middleweight division of the UFC is the most embarrassing division of all time. It's the worst men's division in MMA. UFC middleweight division. The worst men's division in the UFC. 100%. You can't deny it now. You can't deny it now. Watching Kevin Holland lose to Brunson and Brunson have the performance. You know what I thought at one point as well when I was watching it? I just watched the highlights a second ago as well and skipped to some good moments before I made this video. Brunson looked like there was moments in the fight where he was like, okay, but I'm trying to make it look convincing, Kevin, where I'm not rigging it, but like, seriously, KO me now. Like, that was genuinely what I was seeing. Brunson would throw a slow motion jab like this. Not joking. I'm not exaggerating. I'm not going crazy. I'm not exaggerating what I saw. He would literally throw a slow motion punch. I think that the plan was to have Kevin Holland win, and Brunson was paid off, but Brunson was also paid to not make it look obvious. Even at the end, this would explain the ending. Brunson gets up. He's on top at the end of the round, clearly winning the fight so far. If he stays on top for 10 extra seconds until the round is over, he's won the fight. He stands up with 10 seconds left and lets Kevin Holland back up and gives him one more chance. Stands up out of Holland's guard on the bottom, which is not a good guard, by the way. He had nothing off of his back whatsoever and no takedown defense at all. He stood up out of Kevin Holland's guard and just let Holland back up with 10 seconds to go. Like, it was basically Derek Brunson communicating to Holland, hey, Holland, I know you were supposed to KO me, but seriously, I'm trying to make it look convincing. Now you can KO me. I'm not supposed to win here. We've got 10 seconds left. Quickly, this is the plan. We need you to win now. Kevin Holland, with 10 seconds left, in a fight that he was losing, stands up, points at Brunson's corner and starts having a conversation with them and walks away from Derek Brunson. 10 seconds left to change his entire career and try and erase the last 24 minutes and 50 seconds that we just watched. And he decides to point to Brunson's corner and have a conversation. People are betting money on you, Kevin. This is how you lose an entire fan base. You're now unlikable. He's a funny guy. Talking to Khabib, it's going to go viral. He's going to get a ton of popularity. That performance was enough for people to realize and say, you know what, he's a funny guy, but there's no way I can support this man in MMA because he's so fucking garbage. That's my opinion. Brunson didn't even get good takedowns. It wasn't like Holland came in over aggressive and Brunson blast double leg got him to the canvas. Brunson literally just sort of toppled him a little bit, like. And that was enough for Holland to just go rolling on the canvas and put himself on bottom by body triangling in full guard. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I'm going to go. Click that button up there. See you later. See you later. Fucking hell.